Suddenly the plant manager went from, why did this happen, to we saw this coming and here's how we're addressing it. So AI acts as sort of a therapist for many of the planners, saying, hey, everything's fine. We're going to go through this together and here's how we're going to fix it.
Hello, and welcome to Speaking of Supply Chain, where Miebach experts from around the world unpack the real stories, strategies, insights, and innovations shaping the future of supply chain. I'm your host, Ellen Wood. Supply chains generate massive amounts of data, but all too often that data fails to turn into real decisions. As AI tools mature and analytics platforms evolve, the challenge isn't collecting the information, it's knowing how and when to act on it. In this episode, we're going to explore how to close the insight to action gap and where AI is truly transforming supply chain planning and performance. Joining me for today's discussion is my colleague, Bekbolat Abdikanov. He is the Generative AI Solutions Lead for the U.S. office. Welcome back.
Thank you, Ellen. Excited to be here.
It's great to have you. So tell us a little bit more about your role in Miebach and what we're doing with AI.
My path into supply chain at Miebach and AI in general actually started with something simple. Noticing how much time organizations spend just figuring out what happened yesterday in their warehousing solutions.
Yeah.
It's an everyday problem, that everyday challenge that happens to factor into logistics. So I've always wanted to work at a company that was future forward thinking, and Miebach was just the right place where I could practice my expertise and bring the value add to more services that we have here.
Awesome. So let's get into it. Despite the explosion of data and all of these digital tools that are now available on the marketplace, many supply chain leaders struggle to act on any of the insights that they're getting from these tools, from this data. Why is that?
Great question. I would say there are three big reasons why this gap still exists. Number one, I would say companies don't have a data problem per se. They have a fragmentation problem. So the data is spread across different systems like ERP, WMS, planning tools, Excel spreadsheets that we all love, I would say, MES on the shop floor, and none of them speak the same language. So a planner might get a forecast from demand planning, but labor schedulers live somewhere else. SKU profiles live somewhere else again. So by the time all of this get reconciled manually, the insight is already outdated. So that's number one. I would say number two is dashboards does not equal to decisions. Meaning, most organizations think they just need more dashboards. The more dashboards they will get, the more they can capture this ever infinite amount of data that they will do something about. But they don't realize that dashboards just tell them what happened, not what to do next. So of course that can change with the size of the organization. So the bigger the organization, the more dashboards you will obviously need. But at some point you'll have to stop and ask yourself, is this enough to make a decision? Or do I have enough metrics to base my decision on? So I would say that's number two. Number three, I'll say this decision ownership is very unclear. Most of the time, organizations know that even if insight exists, no one knows who should act and how to act. So that would be my three reasons why that gap still exists to action.
So it sounds like one of the ways that AI can help close that gap is by making all of the language or all of the data from these disparate systems talk about the same thing and organize it into a way where it's at least cohesive across the organization. Is that Is that accurate, or is that still going to be a gap? Is there still going to be a gap there just because of the different kinds of data that's there?
You bring up a good point, actually, Alan. This is very important, as most of us know. Whenever we put something into AI, uh, the quality of our inputs matters. So this is a story that brings into one of my experiences. Whenever I walk into the warehouse for the first time, I can always predict the first conversation. Somebody pulls up the dashboard and says, "We knew the bottleneck was coming. We didn't know how bad it would get or what decision to make about it." So there were multiple systems that they were pulling it from. It's not that the data wasn't necessarily there, it's that no one connected the dots quickly enough to make that call, hey, this system is not talking to this system.
So even if we harmonized all of that information, it's still got to be there in a timely manner. They've still got to pull it at the right time. They've still got to, make it make sense. And then to your point, have someone make a decision about it.
Exactly. I would say this is the biggest point.
So there's so much hype around AI, and it's great in terms of my role, marketing, the large language models, the chat GPTs. There's clearly value there for these types of roles. But when it comes to supply chain, and again, to your point, the decision making, of which everyone seems to be hesitant to actually make decisions, is it already creating value in supply chain?
Actually, a lot of value. A lot of the value comes in warehousing and manufacturing logistics environments where there is so much human involvement. There is an opportunity for AI to step in and add that real automation, real game where we can see something that would take the human many hours to do. So let me give you an example. One of our past projects involved a distribution center that we supported during the struggling times. They struggled with labor swings because volume peaks weren't predictable at all. So humans were forecasting labor weekly, but inbound variability made that impossible. So for them, AI changed the game. It started forecasting hourly throughput based on their SKU mix, on their order profiles, on their seasonality, receiving patterns, past performance. So the supervisors, in the end, after we have finished our project, went from reactive firefighting to actual proactive orchestration. So we have made more predictable operations and up to 20% reduction in overtime.
That's fantastic. So we've already moved that needle from reactive to at least predictive. What about prescriptive, where it's telling you what you should be doing in the future based on not only what do you need to do now, but what should be changing? Any value there yet?
That's a great point. The prescriptive inventory optimization is one of the past projects that I would mention that deserves to be mentioned here. One client had constant stockouts on a set of critical SKUs, not because demand was really crazy or anything, but because buffers were set manually months ago. So we used AI to analyze their consumption variability, their production cadence and lead times, and began recommending dynamic inventory adjustments. So this took them from reactive replenishment to actual predictive optimization, which is exactly where the real world AI value comes in.
That's awesome. So from your vantage point, working with clients, what does an organization need in terms of data maturity and organizational readiness? Because it isn't just about the data. Obviously, if they've got some of these systems, the data exists, but the organizational readiness and let's say the the people readiness to use these AI capabilities within these supply chain functions in order to truly benefit from it. So it's not just about, hey, it's possible. It's, are they ready? Are they ready to take on this change? Because it is a huge change to start looking at data from this perspective, I should say. And to your point, trusting the data enough to do something about it.
I would totally agree with you. Having organizations be ready for the AI revolution is one of the equations to make it a successful adoption. So I would say it's a blend of couple of ingredients. Let's make it a perfect recipe of AI adoption. So one, you would need a decision clarity. Before AI, we need to define the decision. If you ask it a vague question, no model can help you. So let's make that clear, right?
Okay.
Second ingredient would be the data foundations. Not a perfect data, but consistent, well understood data. Basically, the source of truth that AI can reference, that would be always updated, that would always have the most truthful information. AI can handle noise, no problem, but it cannot handle confusion. If you give it two different data sources, it will start to mix them together or make up assumptions that otherwise aren't present. And third, I would say that's the biggest one, is the organizational mindset. Teams need to trust the recommendations, not blindly, but with transparency. They can say, hey, this decision was made with the help of AI because this is the portion where AI analyzed, and this is where we checked off. So I always have this transparency where AI helps the human or human helps the AI, so we can have this trace point system to look back at.
All right. So when AI is working well within this operation, what does that success actually look like? Are there KPIs that shift, decision making patterns changing? What does that look like for that organization?
That's a great point, actually. KPI is one of them. KPI improvements usually come up with 10 to 30% improvement in their labor planning accuracy, uplift in throughput consistency, reduced overtime, better inventory turns, fewer expedites, higher service levels. Those are very nice, predictable patterns that we can put on a PowerPoint. But what about something that can make the organization even better? I would go ahead and say behavior shifts is what you can measure your AI deployment success on. This is usually also the first signal. So this is the easiest to gauge and measure as leaders come on board and discuss AI into their organizations. For example, planners will stop exporting to Excel every morning. So that's a big pain point that planners all over the world have. Supervisors will walk in with their prioritized action list instead of problems that they would need to catch up on. Similarly, firefighting meetings will get shorter, less frequent, less check-ins. Leaders will start planning what-if scenarios instead of reconciling yesterday's tasks that should have been done a week ago.
I know that one of the things that changed, at least in our organization or in my department in our organization, is once we started utilizing AI tools on a regular basis, it almost became its own thing, where once you started using it, you were coming up with more ideas of how else can I use this? How can I do this again? How can I apply this elsewhere? How can I make this work for this other area? And for us in the marketing department, that was kind of one of those key indicators of, this is working. This is taking off. We're trusting some of the results. And, that's how we knew that AI had taken hold in our business unit, was because we were then excited about using it and trying to apply it in different places.
Right, right.
Do you find something similar when it comes to supply chain, different activities within a facility, within a network?
I would say so. The manufacturing client that comes to my mind had a schedule adherence problem, too many surprises, too much rework. So AI began identifying early warning indicators from small anomalies in the upstream data to big whale problems later down their pipeline. Suddenly, the plant manager went from, "Why did this happen?" to, "We saw this coming, and here's how we're addressing it." So AI acts as sort of a therapist for many of the planners, saying, "Hey, everything's fine. We're going to go through this together, and here's how we're going to fix it." From reactive to proactive, from hindsight to actual foresight.
That sounds amazing. So, for companies that are eager to embed AI into some of their workflows, what's a good starting point? Where would you even begin? There's so many applications for it. Is there a single place where organizations could say this is what we want to do?
That's a great question, because the best starting point is always picking the high friction. I always loved this book by Brian Tracy, Eat the Frog in the Morning, or many motivational speakers like to point to that direction as well. I would say pick one high friction and high value decision that has a clear owner, has measurable KPIs, has accessible data, not just one time, but over the period of a substantial amount of months. Let's say 6 months should be sustainable, to avoid any seasonality issues. Operational pain today and the future and in the past. For example, you can predict their labor needs, you can identify imminent service risks, optimize for safety stock, and detect different abnormalities in their automation systems. Start with one workflow, not the whole enterprise.
Don't try to boil the ocean.
Exactly.
Well, conversely, what is one pitfall or misconception that they should watch out for, like trying to boil the ocean?
I would say trying to boil the ocean is similar to enterprise-wide AI transformation immediately. Trying to combine different CRMs together, trying to combine this task with sales task. This leads to misalignment, slow value delivery, low adoption, budget fatigue. So AI should deliver its first win within the 30 to 90 days, not 2 years. So that's a great news for many senior leaders who want to adopt AI in their organization. So once people feel the value, the scaling should come naturally.
That's a great measuring stick to say, if you're trying to do too much all at once, you won't see the results this early. But, in order to validate that your results are at least somewhere in the scope of reasonable and not, that the AI isn't coming up with some fantasy, that you've got some reliable data that you've been working with. And, I think that the 30 to 60 days is a reasonable amount of time to say, we've been working with this, we've been trying this. And if you're not finding actionable results within that time frame, okay, you haven't wasted an entire year on this project. You can go back, you can tweak, you can test again.
Absolutely. In the grand scheme of things in the business world, 30 to 90 days is usually the onboarding of new employees. So you can always count AI as a new employee.
Ah, that's an interesting take. I like it. So, in one sentence, what is the biggest myth about AI capabilities in supply chain that you wish more leaders would let go of?
I would say the myth is that AI replaces human judgment is quite prevalent in today's media. But in reality, the organizations winning with AI are the ones that are elevating their people, not replacing them. Kind of like our organization at Miebach, we're enabling the employees to use AI in their everyday tasks, to streamline the processes, to make them much more productive.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I think we can all agree that the computers are not going to take over the world, at least not this week. And that AI is just another tool in our toolbox. We have lots of tools. We have the old standby Excel. We have lots of other tools available out there, but some of these AI tools are fantastic tools to be able to have in our back pocket to utilize when it comes to our organizations and hopefully move the needle faster or more efficiently.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. It's always better to have multiple options than not at all. And the more things you have in the tool belt, the better.
All right. Well, thank you to our listeners for tuning in to Speaking of Supply Chain. If this conversation sparked a new idea or touched on a challenge that you're navigating, we'd love to hear from you. There are links in the episode description for you to join the conversation online. And tune in next time as we look closer at the fast-changing dynamics of emerging markets. Growth opportunities are everywhere, but so are the risks. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss out on hearing how global design meets local execution.